The prairie was a quiet place, quiet enough that a man could hear his own thoughts echo back at him. For years, that was all Jonas Hawley had. His ranch stretched for miles across open land, but none of that space ever filled the certain emptiness at the center of his chest. People in town said he preferred cattle to humans. Maybe they weren't wrong. Cattle didn't disappoint you. Cattle didn't leave. Ever since he lost his wife 10 years back, Jonas had lived like a shadow moving through dust and silence. But the night he found the girl tied to his fence, everything changed. It was near dusk when he first heard it, something soft, something out of place, like a whimper carried on the wind. Jonas paused mid-step, boots sinking into the dirt. His cattle were too far from the house to be making noise, and coyotes didn't sound like that. He narrowed his eyes toward the far fence line, where the sky burned orange above the horizon. Probably nothing, he muttered to himself, but the sound came again, faint, shaking, unmistakably human. Against his better judgment, he grabbed his lantern and walked toward the noise. The closer he got, the clearer it became. It was crying, real crying, young. And then the lantern light fell on her. A girl, maybe 16, her wrists tied to the wire fence with rough rope, her face bruised and streaked with dirt. Her breath trembled in panic bursts, and when she saw Jonas, she flinched like he was another danger. Jonas froze. His heart kicked hard against his ribs, shock spreading like cold water in his veins. He'd seen cruelty in his life, but this was different. "Hey," he said quietly, lowering the lantern so he wouldn't blind her. "I'm not here to hurt you." She tried to speak, but only a rasp came out. Her lips were cracked, her voice shredded from crying. Jonas pulled out his pocket knife and carefully cut the ropes. The moment her hands were free, she collapsed forward, and he caught her before she hit the ground. She was trembling uncontrollably. Too light, too cold. "Who did this?" Jonas asked softly, but she shook her head fast, eyes wide with terror. It was the kind of fear that had a history behind it, the kind that didn't fade when the danger was gone. Jonas didn't press her. He lifted her gently and carried her back toward the house. She clung to his shirt with shaking fingers as though afraid he'd vanish and leave her alone in the dark again. The storm rolling in didn't help. Thunder grumbled in the distance, and flashes of lightning split the growing darkness. "What's your name?" Jonas asked as he carried her inside. She swallowed hard. "Mara," she finally whispered. Jonas nodded, the name settling into something important in his mind, like a spark igniting in dry wood. Inside the ranch house, he wrapped her in blankets and brought her warm food. She ate slowly at first, staring at him between bites as if testing whether he was safe. "Did your father do that to you?" Jonas asked eventually, keeping his tone gentle. Mara's eyes dropped to the table, and that was answer enough. Hours passed. Rain hammered the roof, and the storm grew violent enough to shake the windows. Mara sat curled on the couch, her hands wrapped around a mug of warm tea. Jonas kept a respectful distance, giving her space. Finally, she spoke. "He left me there because I tried to run." Her voice cracked, and she set the mug down before she spilled it. "He said next time I'd be left somewhere worse." Jonas felt something inside him twist, a mixture of anger and sorrow deeper than words. "You're safe here," he said quietly. "Nobody's taking you back to that man." Mara looked up, searching his face for the truth. He held her gaze steadily. "I promise." Outside, lightning cracked across the sky. Inside, Mara flinched at the sound, and Jonas gently closed the curtains so she wouldn't see the storm. As he did, he wondered how many storms she'd had to weather alone, how long she'd survived in silence before breaking. No child, no person deserved that. When she finally fell asleep on the couch, Jonas placed a blanket over her shoulders. As he watched her, the loneliness that had wrapped around him for a decade began to shift, loosening its grip. He didn't know what tomorrow would bring: questions from the sheriff, trouble from the father, danger he couldn't yet see. But he did know one thing: Mara wasn't going back, not as long as he was breathing. And for the first time in years, the ranch didn't feel empty anymore. The next morning, Mara woke to the smell of bacon and coffee. Sunlight poured through the windows, painting the ranch in gold. She blinked, disoriented for a moment, then remembered everything: the fence, the storm, Jonas. He glanced back when he heard her sit up. "Morning," he said. "You hungry?" Mara hesitated, then nodded. Something about the old ranchers, steady presence made her feel safer than she had in years. Over breakfast, Jonas gently asked what she wanted to do. Mara stared into her plate, pushing food around as she considered her answer. I don't want to go back, she whispered. Jonas nodded. Then you won't. She met his eyes with cautious hope. But what if he comes here? She asked. Jonas rested his hands on the table. Then he'll leave disappointed. His voice was calm, but there was steel underneath, the kind born from surviving life's hardest blows. Before long, the peace of the morning was broken by the distant sound of an approaching truck. Jonas stiffened, standing slowly. Mara's face drained of color. It's him, she whispered, clutching the edge of the table. Jonas walked to the window, his jaw tightening. A rusted pickup rolled up the dirt road, grinding to a stop near the fence. A man stepped out, hard-faced, eyes full of anger. Mara's father. Jonas stepped out onto the porch, positioning himself between the door and the man. Rain puddles still dotted the dirt from the storm. The sky was clear, but tension crackled like leftover thunder. She ain't yours, Mara's father barked, and I'm taking her home. Jonas didn't flinch. She's not going anywhere with someone who ties her to a fence. The man spat on the ground. That's none of your business. Jonas took one step forward, his expression turning cold. It is now. The two men stared each other down. Mara watched through the window, trembling. Jonas's voice lowered. She's staying. You've done enough. The father's eyes narrowed with simmering rage. You think you can steal my kid? Jonas didn't answer. He didn't need to. Something in his stance made the man pause, reconsidering. Jonas wasn't a threat in the loud, bragging way. He was a threat in the quiet, immovable way, like a mountain you crashed into and never recovered. Sheriff knows she's here, Jonas lied smoothly. Knows what you did. You want to take your chances? That was all it took. Fear flickered in the man's eyes. He cursed it under his breath, stomped back to his truck, and peeled away, kicking dust into the air. Jonas watched until the truck disappeared down the road, then stepped back inside. Mara sat on the couch, hands covering her face. When she looked up at him, tears streaked her cheeks. Why did you help me? She whispered. Jonas took off his hat and sat across from her. Because nobody helped me when I needed it, he said simply. That day marked the beginning of something new. Jonas contacted the sheriff for real this time, explained the situation, and ensured Mara would never be forced back into a dangerous home. Papers were filed, protections put in place, and slowly, Mara began to heal. She followed Jonas around the ranch, learning how to feed the horses, how to fix fences, how to ride. She asked questions about everything, sometimes out of curiosity, sometimes just to hear a gentle voice answer her. And Jonas found himself talking again, really talking for the first time since his wife passed. The emptiness that once dominated his days grew smaller, replaced by the sound of Mara's laughter echoing across the open land. The ranch wasn't just a place anymore. It was a new life, a new beginning, for both of them. One evening, months later, they watched the sunset from the porch. Mara leaned back in the old rocking chair, her face peaceful. Jonas stood beside her, arms crossed. She looked up at him and smiled. Thank you for everything. Jonas nodded, his voice rough with emotion he didn't often show. You saved me too, kid. The prairie wind carried their laughter across the fields to people who had been broken in different ways, had found something in each other, a second chance, and neither of them would ever be lonely again.